On today's show, Luka Doncic said he's happy to be here. There's nothing to worry about when it comes to a trade request. Should we believe him? And where do the Mavs end up in the lottery standings now that the season is over? We'll talk about that and more on today's Locked On Mavs.
I'm Luka Doncic, and this is Locked On Mavericks.
Mavericks, NBA champions. It's good, and the Mavericks have won the game.
If you don't believe, you shouldn't be here.
Loyalty never fades away.
And welcome. You are locked on to the Dallas Mavericks. My name is Nick Angstadt, media member and NBA channel manager of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And because the season is over, I'm breaking the rules. It's time. Let it ride. Oh, feels good. Thanks for being part of the show and making Locked On Mavs your first listen every day. Subscribe or follow for free wherever you get your podcasts or on YouTube. But the best way you can help us grow the show is to listen every day and to comment anything below. Let us know, did Luka's comments today change your opinion or your fear level about him leaving the Mavericks? Very curious what people think about this. Today's episode is brought to you by PrizePicks. First-time users can receive a 100% instant deposit match up to $100 with the promo code LOCKEDON. That's prizepicks.com, promo code LOCKEDON. And joining me, as always, my co-host, writer, contributor at Mavs.com. The end of the season, sir. The one more thinking. What you got for me, Isaac Harris?
I had to make sure I don't talk at the beginning. There's somebody who comments every single time that when I talk during the intro, they're like, it's such a buzzkill. So shout out to you. Didn't talk just for you. Nick?
Well, I also fade out the intro music while you're talking. So if they think that's by design. So if they think I'm killing the buzz because of that, then that's what it is. What it is.
It is finished.
Tatalastai, or whatever the word is. What's the Greek word? What's the word Jesus said when he died on the cross?
What's the Greek word for maverick? Because we'll say maverick in any word right now. I don't think I've ever been as happy for a season to end.
I think a lot of fans agree with you. I talked to a lot of fans just today at the Mavs game that were like, I'm just glad this season is done. I'm gonna stick with you guys on Locked On Mavs, but I'm glad this season is over. I'm with you.
And we got to say this right off the top. We get asked this for the past 6 years. Hey, do y'all do daily in the offseason? What do y'all do in the offseason?
100%.
Yes, we do. We never stop. 5 days a week, every single day, no matter if the Mavs are playing or not. So we got you all through the playoffs and the offseason, the draft, all the rumors. We got you. We never stop, baby.
Oh, the rumor has it, but I haven't brought it back. But it's coming. I can feel it.
I can sound of my wife cheering over there that we never stop.
I can feel the rumor has it button. On today's show, we'll talk about the Mavs, where they are in the lottery standings. We'll talk about that and after the final loss, and we'll talk about the odds now with the Mavericks. We'll talk about that loss a little bit. Weird stuff happened in that game. Our boy, more than a hype man, Theo Pinson, friend of the show, went off for a triple-double. And then let's start here, though, because the Mavericks decided to do exit interviews today after the game, just out of nowhere. Right before the game, I texted you. It's Easter Sunday. You're busy at church. I texted you. I'm like, hey, the Mavericks are doing exit interviews today, like right now. I found out like in the middle of the second quarter. And they just decided to let people talk. And so we only got like 4 or 5 Mavericks, but Luka was one of them. And so we're not going to hear from the rest of them, basically. So if you're like out there as a fan waiting on the Mavericks YouTube or for us to talk about it, like there's going to be no more. So it is what
if there's ever been a sign for the season to go like it has been,
yes.
Like I just said, like, man, I've never been happy for a season to end. It is that, because we've talked about before how exit interviews have been. I mean, even in the past, they've changed it up over, past handful of years a little bit. But like when we started, it was like almost an all day thing, at least a 5 to 6 hour thing. Practice court at the arena, us all just sitting there huddled up. They'd bring one player at a time, walk down these stairs, walk over to us, ask them a bunch of questions, pretty much as we wanted for the most part, because it's the last time we've seen them until next season. And then they leave, another player, and it's like an all day thing. This year, hey, everybody wants to get out so bad. We're just going to throw it into a post game and give you like 4 players and say, see you later, because we're so ready to close up shop on this year.
The Mavericks said, peace out, boom, to the season,
Honestly,
basically. Yeah. But Luka said a lot of things in this press conference. And the first one, let's start here, because there was a report or a rumor that Tim McMahon reported a couple of days ago that the Mavericks were concerned or had fear that next season in 2024, or just in the 2024 season, that Luka would request a trade if things didn't change.
Yeah,
and so
next offseason. Yeah.
Next offseason, if that was brought up. So that was something that was brought up to him. And so I want to play the clip. This is Tim McMahon asking Luka Doncic about that rumor specifically and about where are you with that? Do you hope that something will change? Like what is your frustration level with the organization? And so this was Luka's answer and the back and forth with Tim McMahon.
Yeah, I mean, I saw the report. I don't know who. Somebody said that I was going to request a trade. It was funny, because I didn't know that was true. I didn't say it.
I didn't say it.
I know.
Very clear.
I know sources said it.
No, to be very clear. I just want to get this straight, because seriously, I want to get this straight. Never did I say, hey, Luka is indicating that you're going to request a trade. What I said is, if they don't get this right over the next year, there is a fear that you could come to them, as Anthony Davis did in New Orleans, James Harden did in Houston, Kevin Durant just did in Brooklyn, say, hey, if we don't have a chance to win a championship,
Yeah, I know what you're saying, but I'm happy here, so there's nothing to worry.
Does that phrase, I'm happy here, there's nothing to worry, did that change how you feel or your fear level or your reaction to that rumor from Tim McMahon that Luka could request a trade in 2024?
I mean, it definitely makes you feel good as a fan to hear that, because you ask yourself, like, what are the other options that he could have said? Like, he could have said a pretty political answer, but it's still been like kind of worrisome at the same time of like, yeah, I like it here. I want to stay here long term, but I also want to win. And I want to win a title. And right now it's been frustrating this year. We got to see what happens, this offseason. Like, he could have said something like that, but he didn't. He just said, hey, I'm happy here. You have nothing to worry about. So that's it. It's at least positive. It's at least like it makes you feel good. Long term, it doesn't do anything about my fear for him going somewhere else.
Because think about how long that is. Another year. Like, think about a year ago. The Mavericks were rocking on all cylinders. We were feeling good about Luka. We were feeling great about Brunson. We were feeling good about the trade that just happened, and like everything was working well. We felt good about the identity of this team. And now, a year later, we are like the complete opposite of all that. Not feeling good about anybody. Kind of feeling good about some young guys, which is actually different than last season where they were, but not feeling really good about anybody else outside of Luka. And not even Kyrie, because he's not signed. Like, he's not a Dallas Maverick at this very moment. So that's, you're not feeling good about anything. And so for Luka to say this, though, I do think that he came out and said, hey, there's nothing to worry. Now, have players and star players in the past said this and then changed their mind in a year? Yes, one of them was just on the Dallas Mavericks, and Kyrie, who went to a school in Boston and said, hey, I'm going to be Boston Celtic, and then requested a trade. Like, he told those kids that he was going to be there and that he wasn't, and requested a trade from there. So it can happen. At this point, how bad the season has been and how bad the Mavericks front office has been putting pieces around him, that I wouldn't be I would understand Luka's frustration and his want to, pressure the front office. And I kind of think hey, all the power to him to pressure the front office to, to make some moves. They should feel that pressure. But it did change my opinion on it, or at least my fear level on it with Luka, because he came out and pretty definitively was like, hey, I'm happy here. Like, there's nothing to worry at this point. But a year is a long time.
Let's take a break and come back, because I got some more to say about this.
We'll talk about this. We'll also talk about Luka said something has to change. He said that several times on in his exit interview. So even though he's happy here, something has to change. What is that? We'll talk about that coming up. But before we do, let me tell you about Prize Picks. It's daily fantasy made easy. You can go check it out right now. It should be super fun during the It should be super fun during the playoffs. You can pick 2 to 6 players and an over-under on their projections. So you pick over or under or more or less on their points. You can do it on rebounds, all kinds of different things. And you can pick and you can combine a bunch of different ones. So for this Atlanta versus Miami play-in game, you got Trae Young, 24.5 points. I'm going to go more on that. And then Jimmy Butler, 27.5. I'm going to go less on that. You can put down $20. You can win 60. Let's say I want to add Bam Adebayo, 19.5. I'll go more on that. Put down $20. I can win 100. All that stuff. Combine it. Also, you can use the promo code LOCKEDON to get 100% instant deposit match up to $100. Go ahead and check it out. It's prizepicks.com. All right, Isaac. Thanks, everybody, for making Locked On Mavs your first listen. You can go and subscribe on YouTube. Go follow us. And also, click the link below because we are starting up our subtext where you guys can text us. There's a link in the description of your episode, wherever you are, on YouTube or on podcast right now. And you can subscribe and you can text us all throughout the offseason. We're starting this now that it's the offseason because we want to stay connected with you guys throughout the offseason. Even though I can't see you at games, can't give you a sticker, I can still text you, and Isaac can text you, and you can ask us questions. We'll do ask me anythings over the offseason. We'll text rumors when they happen so that you guys can stay up to date with that and ask you what you think about it, and you can ask us and all that kind of stuff. So click the link in the description below of our subtext. Start with a free trial, and then if you want to support the show, this is going to be a great way to do that because you can subscribe monthly. And then support the show, stay connected with us, all that kind of stuff. We'll talk about this more all throughout the offseason, but wanted to let everybody know that we're starting that up right now.
Do you want me to wait? I don't know where to go from here. Can I talk?
I wanted you to at least be like, yeah, we're doing this. I'm excited about it. Let's do it.
I didn't know if you're setting me up for more Luka stuff because I was ready for that. Or
I was giving you a chance to respond to the subtext thing.
All right, listen. Let me say this about the subtext thing. We've had a lot of people over the past 6 years ask us how else can we support you guys?
Yeah.
You guys are part of every single morning for us in the car on the way to school, work, whatever it is. Here's a way to do that, and it's also a way you can stay in touch with us because, shocker here, I'm trying to limit as much as I get on Twitter nowadays. So sometimes some DMs get unanswered from me, and I kind of feel bad. My wife gets me heck about it all the time. But here's a way to do that. You can shoot a text. You can text us if you're subscribed and all that. And what? Why
I think your wife is the only one in the world that's concerned that you're not responding to the people that slide into your DMs.
I mean, possibly. She just gets upset when I don't reply to people. She's like, be nice. They support your show. I'm like, I know, but anyway.
Isaac's wife was like, these people slid into your DMs. You got to at least respond to them.
Oh, that's awesome. All right, let's talk about Luka. Now
go ahead. No, you got me.
Here's the thing with the Luka and the leaving and all this stuff. And this goes with some other things. Guys, the odds are not in our favor. All right. The math does not equal if you want to sit there and look at across, the past, I don't know, 10 years, whatever. I mean, even further back than that, generational superstars, for the most part, if you had to bet, you're smart to just bet on them leaving because most of them leave. That's why that's why Dirk is so rare. That's why the Steph Currys and Tim Duncans and Giannis up until this point, it's so rare because you just never see these guys stick around for, this one team for their entire career. So it's that's why it's always funny to me when there's people have been starting since rookie season. Luka's going to leave just to live in the next. I'm like, okay, well, you're kind of smart because you're just betting on the odds. At some point he might leave. Kind of like the same people are like, hey, every year this team sucks. Organization sucks. They're never going to do anything. They're never going to have any type of success. And it's like, okay, well, you're going to be right most years because there's only one team who wins a title. There's only 4 teams that gets to the conference finals. So if they're one of the 26 teams who don't even make the conference finals, you can sit there and say, hey, I was right. See, I said we didn't have enough. Look at all the stuff I was saying before the season and make your victory lap. So you can make your bets and play the odds with Luka's going to leave. The team's going to suck before it even happens. And guys, the odds are in your favor. Now we don't want it to happen. And that's why it sucks even saying this. It's at some point, do I think Luka's going to leave? The odds say yeah. but I don't want it to happen. I want him to be the next Dirk. But like Mark Cuban said, they got to prove it to him. Because right now it's like this past 12 months, 9 months hasn't been a good showing to Luka Doncic from the Mavs.
No, it hasn't. And he was very clear during his exit interview as well. Something has to change. He talked about he didn't like the way that this season was. He didn't like the way that they lost, obviously didn't make the playoffs, all that. And he said something has to change. If you are Luka Doncic, what do you want that thing to be?
I mean, that's the question, right? I mean, because you start looking at across at the main players at the table here, and you're like, all right, well, is the supporting cast and some of the role players enough of a change to make it? I mean, they're already publicly saying we want Jason Kidd back, which I'll push back just a little bit and saying pretty sure that they were praising Rick Carlisle before he left, but they already said they want Jason Kidd back. Nico Harrison, Mark's already been praising him. He's just in year 3. You got to do everything you can to re-sign Kyrie. So if you're already bringing back those 4, Mark's not going anywhere. So there's 5. Outside of that, it's like, okay, so I guess the change is just the role players around them. If that's the changes,
the change becomes add,
right? Which I'm not saying that that's wrong. I'm not saying that's like not enough. I don't know if it is enough. I mean, it depends on who they swap out and the type of players they bring in and all of that. I'm just saying if you're reading that quote saying, "Oh, Luka, something's got to change," and that means something big. I don't know what that big change is right now at this moment.
Yeah, I mean, the change could be the team tries a new offensive scheme that is a scheme, right? Like that tries that. I think the change that he wants is to add. You got to add something, and it's not a star anymore. They already have Luka and Kyrie. I still believe that pairing can work. I know that.
Me too.
I know you believe that too, and I think a lot of fans think that can work too. And the front office obviously thinks it can work, and Luka thinks that it can work. And if they keep Kyrie, then you just have to add a couple role players. We're gonna do a couple episodes probably on this throughout the offseason. Look at the teams that have taken a dip. The teams that have stars that have taken a dip. I start looking at some of these teams. You look at the 2021 Golden State Warriors. Curry played that whole season basically, and they finished like 6 games over 500 and made the play-in, and then I don't think won their playing game. The Lakers with LeBron just last season took a real dip. They were 33-49. The Celtics in 2021, they were 36-36. The Nets last season with Durant and Kyrie got swept in round 1. Like, you look at some of these teams that have taken a dip, how did they bounce back? The Nets never did bounce back, but some of these other teams, they have really bounced back. And how did they do it? They added some role players. The Celtics do the Al Horford, and they bring back Derek White, and then they the Lakers do their trade this season, where the Lakers were where the Mavericks are right now through the whole season, basically make one trade to get Jared Vanderbilt and Malik Beasley and D'Angelo Russell, and then all of a sudden they're like a team out gonna make the playoffs right now. They're the 7th seed. They were about to be a 6th seed. But I know you hate the Lakers, but just that example is like, okay, it doesn't take a lot in today's NBA for you to bounce back up and down because of just how crazy games are. And the Mavericks, you look at this team and they didn't get destroyed in all of these games. Now, they lost a ton of games down the stretch of the season, but I asked Jason Kidd and I asked a lot of players today, what do you think was the difference between you guys winning and losing a ton of these close games? I mean, you just look at their record over the last month or so when they started losing, which, by the way, since the Maxi Kleber game winner against the Lakers, how many wins do you think the Mavericks have?
4.
The answer is 2.
Oof.
The answer is 2. It's against the Pacers, that one game, and then it was against the Kings the other night. But you start looking at the difference between some of these losses, and it's like 4 points, 8 points, 3 points, 5 points, 4 points. It's a couple of bounces of the ball. It's a couple of quarters where you just played putrid defense. And if you can change that, like change a couple quarters here and there, like you already have something to build on. It's not like you're not building on anything. And obviously, we think Luka can be better if they manage him and Kyrie a little bit better to start the season and get a third ball handler. God bless.
We were saying that in September.
But like that's something that has to change. Is just you got to add a couple role players and fill out the roster now because you have your two pieces that you can build around if Kyrie stays.
And Jason Kidd said this in his exit interview of saying, with the current roster that we have, we're just not a defensive group. So this is why it goes back to hey, some of these guys are not going to be back, which I don't think have we got to talk since that.
I know we need to do that. That has to be like a full episode.
So anyway, there's some big roster changes coming.
The last thing, Luka also mentioned he did not like the decision to sit the last two games. He said he came out and said it, which I thought was very interesting. Where he said, hey, I did not like the decision to sit the last two games. But,
okay, I'll push back just a little bit. What's he supposed to say?
But we came to an agreement, so it's all good. That's what he said. He could have just said that part. We came to agreement. It's all good. But he came out and said that, I guess the quiet part out loud was that, hey, I didn't like that. I didn't like that I had to sit the last two games.
Yeah.
I didn't agree with that.
Yeah, and that's what he's like. That's what he's supposed to say as a leader, as the guy he is, as somebody who got to only play one quarter on Slovenian night, to where some of you might be listen to this and you flew from Slovenia for this game, and you're like, this sucked. Like, you want to hear Luka Doncic say, yeah, I didn't like having to sit out. So good answer by him.
Coming up, let's talk about the Mavs Spurs game and where the Mavericks are in the lottery standings and what their odds look like going into the lottery. We'll talk about that coming up. But before we do, let me tell you about the Ultimate Pro Basketball GM game. Guys.
How many titles have you won now?
I do tend to get hooked on these mobile games. And I know some of you guys are too. If you get stuck on the Candy Crushes or the Angry Birdses or some of these puzzle or word games like Wordle or some of the this is the basketball version of this. This is what the basketball nerd in me and you and Isaac and all of us get hooked on, because you control every aspect of a team in this Ultimate Pro Basketball GM game, where you draft players, you trade players, you train players up, you hire coaches, you fire coaches, you negotiate contracts, you do all kinds of stuff, you build up your facilities, you do all these things. And once you figure it out, once you figure out all the different machinations of this game that you could do, you're hooked. And I am hooked. We did a contest with the other host. I played through 25 seasons and I won 4 titles.
Oh my goodness. Go touch grass.
You simulate games and you do all this. It's an incredible game. Go check it out. Locked On Mavs listeners get 100% free boost to your franchise and use the promo code Locked On. That's all caps, one word, in the game store. So go to redeem, hit that. Again, the Ultimate Pro Basketball GM game. Go check it out. All right, Isaac. Thanks, everybody, for hanging out with us in Locked On Mavs. Again, go to the link in the description to subscribe to our subtext. You can get text from us. We will be reaching out to you guys. And, you can get the link in the description. Okay. The Dallas Mavericks now, after all the things that happened in this, the Chicago Bulls won, which is good. The Utah Jazz almost won, but they didn't. And then the Thunder won. That was good for the Mavericks. The Mavericks are now 10th in the lottery standings, which means the Dallas Mavericks now have an 80% chance to keep the pick this year.
Guys, that means also that if they didn't bench their players against the Bulls the other night, they still would not have made the playoffs. Just wanted to throw that out there for the people who are really upset that they didn't try hard on that Bulls game.
However, though, if they did, and if they won that game, they still wouldn't have made it. But it would have affected their lottery standings, because the Bulls would have been almost they would have been tied with them, right? If it depends on what happened the last day of the season still, but it did help. They did need to do that in order to secure this spot at this point. So they have an 80% chance to keep their pick. There's still 20% chance they don't have their pick at all, which is brutal. But you'd much rather take the 80% chance. So the
also a chance to move up to top 4 and Wembanyama pick at 1.
They also do have a 14% chance to move up to the top 4, which, hey, you take that with Luka Doncic for sure. The draft lottery would be May 16th. That's a Tuesday. What?
I'm trying to picture the ultimate Mavs civil war that would happen between the fan base if they landed at 3 or 4.
Yeah.
And it turned into, because half of the fan base be like, you get the young star to go next to Luka right now. You draft Miller from Ohio State, and then the other half would be like, dude, we could go out and get like a legit number 3 guy next to Kyrie and Luka with this 3rd pick. Oh man, the discourse between the fans would be unreal.
Now the Warriors did this. They had the number 2 pick and they just picked Wiseman and blew it. And so they tried to trade that pick a bunch. So I want to just temper expectations here too, because sometimes it's hard to trade those.
I say 3 because I think if it's Wembanyama or Scoot, I don't think there's no like.
Yeah, you just take it, right?
You can't trade that.
Wembanyama and Luka is. We may have to do.
We'll do a pod on that.
We'll do some pods of that. That's our new thing.
We got time.
Our new thing is not. We talked to Brunson on media day. Our new thing is we'll do a whole pod on it.
Had some Culver fries the other day. We'll do a pod on that. On those fries.
On the cheese curds.
No, just the fries, the crinkle fries. They're pretty good.
But you're not into cheese curds?
I mean, I'm not like pulling in somewhere just to get cheese curds.
They have good burgers too. I like the smash burger.
Okay, that's pretty good.
But that's what
Theo Pinson had a triple double today, and I want to blame Jason Kidd for not playing him more throughout the season. We could have been in the playoffs if they.
Are you going on a rant here?
No, I thought about doing it on Twitter, but I love being sarcastic on Twitter, but not everybody gets it, and then you always get some people that get upset. But I almost did a whole like anti Jason Kidd thing today on Twitter because Pinson was just buried on the bench all year.
23 points, 13 boards, 12 assists. This was the fakest game I've ever seen, I think. This game was so fake. Even on the Spurs side of things, they weren't even trying. I mean, they sat Devontae Graham, Doug McDermott, Zach Collins, who's going to be their starting center next year, Charles Bassey, Kemp. Like they sat all these, Keldon Johnson, Jeremy Sohan, Devin Vassell.
Why did he say that Zach Collins is going to be our starting center next year? Like that was the funniest thing. Like what are we already declaring this?
I thought he said it because Greg Popovich wasn't going to be the coach next year. Just like threw it out there. Like this is my last will and testament is that Zach Collins is our starting center. But like, what if they get Wembanyama?
It's still Zach Collins.
You're starting Zach Collins and Wembanyama. I guess Wembanyama can play anything. He can put back his own 3-point shots. So
that's the new Duncan and the Admiral.
Zach Collins and Victor Wembanyama.
Yeah.
But like they didn't even play Keldon Johnson, Sohan, Devin Vassell. Like they didn't play anybody in this game.
Listen, I had Easter stuff all day today, so I couldn't catch this game live. I've watched all 81 games this season. Some of them weren't live, but I've went back and watched the full game. I don't think I'm going to go back and watch this game. I think this is going to be the only game this season that I'm just like, I think I'm just going to punt on it and say, I love you, Theo. It's been good, but half of these rosters won't be in the league at all next year.
You know who else punted on this game?
Luka,
the Mavericks. All the Mavericks did. We did see some good stuff from Jaden Hardy, but it was essentially a G League game. So I'm not taking away anything from this, but Hardy went 1 of 7 and still scored 25 points. So he got to the rim, which I thought was really good. But again, I'm not putting.
We could do some big breakdowns here. Hey, the Mavs only got to the line 16 times.
They took 53 threes in this game.
Yeah, they did. Every player who logged a minute for the Mavs hit a 3-pointer.
They lost the rebounding battle by 23, Isaac.
That's why they lost. And Dwight Powell is a DNP-CD. Was this his last game suiting up for the Mavs?
Christian Wood also suited up and was a DNP-CD.
Wow, this is his last game suiting up for the Mavs. So
I think Jason Kidd is happy that that's his last.
Do we got odds on Christian Wood's next team?
I don't think FanDuel has those. I'm going to be honest with you.
I'll DM Pinsack.
Davis also hit 5 threes in this game.
My God, Davis.
Frank Ntilikina was running the offense, guys.
Yeah. You know what? You can't forget about him if he's running the offense.
Oh, is this the last time we're going to be able to do this?
People forget about Frank.
Oh.
He ain't coming back either.
Oh.
Touche.
Is Frank in the league next year?
Which league?
Well, the NBA.
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
He's still only 25?
I mean, Dennis was barely hanging on.
People forget about Frank.
Now he had a good year.
Do we not get to use the Frank drop anymore? We should do an episode where we RIP all the drops we won't get to use next year.
Oh, that's kind of sad. We're gonna have some guys. You gotta understand, we haven't had this podcast to where we've had to do like non-playoff pods from in April and May since like the first year we did this, or like Luka's first year, I guess. And so now we're back to this, and we're about to have some epic pods. It could go off.
They're discussing the podcast.
It could go off the rails a little bit, but
For sure.
tomorrow we're gonna talk about Jason Kidd coming back, because I'm sure we both got takes about that.
We know that Jason Kidd will be returning as the Dallas Mavericks head coach. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about the investigation.
That's what they have said.
Okay. Okay. I'll take them at their word at that, because that's not something that they would come out and say if they didn't mean it. But we'll talk about that tomorrow. We'll also talk about the investigation into the Mavericks tanking against the Bulls, because Jason Kidd, the press conference finally came back to bite him. So we'll talk about that tomorrow. Guys, go check out Locked On NBA Game to Game. Also, I'm recording playoff previews with all the shows. So go check out Locked On Wolves, Lakers,
Not ours.
Bulls, Hawks, Pelicans, all the ones in the play-in. They will be on their channels. You can hear me talking with them and giving you everything you need to know before you watch some of these play-in games. So go check it out. And Locked On NBA Game to Game on Locked On NBA, wherever you get your podcast. Guys, thanks so much for listening to Locked On Mavs.
Peace out.
Boom!